Hey, this is John Lee Dumas from Entrepreneurs on Fire, and you are listening to the Social Media Talks podcast with Alan Hennessy from Compass Media. This is the podcast to help business owners who want to learn more about digital and social media marketing. You are prepared to ignite.
Before we begin this episode, we'd like to give a big shout out to our sponsors and also our supporters. The Social Media Talks podcast is sponsored by Content Cal, creating a solution to simplify and speed up how teams can plan, collaborate on, approve, publish and analyze social media content in a familiar and intuitive calendar interface. In just 3 years, they have been trusted by over 10,000 businesses and agencies in 110 countries to deliver social media content at scale and have recently won an award for the Content Management Tool of the Year. For more information on Content Cal, visit their website at contentcal.io. We would also like to remind you the Social Media Talks podcast is proudly supported by charityradio.ie, one of Ireland's leading online radio stations supporting charities across Ireland for free. And now, this week's episode.
Welcome to Social Media Talks podcasts, brought to you by compassmedia.ie.
Hello and thank you for joining me. This is the Social Media Talks podcast, brought to you by compassmedia.ie. Episode number 73. I'm your host, Alan Hennessy, and this is the podcast to help business owners who want to learn more about social media marketing. And if you'd like to listen to any of our previous podcasts, you can log on to our website at compassmedia.ie/podcasts. You can also join our Facebook group by logging on to facebook.com/groups/social media talks. And we're looking forward to today's show. Today I'm going to be joined by John Lee Dumas. And John is an American entrepreneur and podcaster based in Puerto Rico. He is the founder and host of Entrepreneurs on Fire, a business podcast where he interviews successful entrepreneurs. With over 2,000 episodes already published, his podcast gets over 70 million downloads per month and has 1 million active monthly listeners. And today we're going to be talking to John all about podcasting and what are the benefits of podcasting and how should we start our podcasts. So without further ado, I think we will transition straight over to the interview with John. Hi John, how are you? Thanks for joining us today on the Social Media Talks podcast. How are you?
Alan, I'm on fire. The sun is shining. The birds are singing down here in Puerto Rico. Life in the Caribbean, somebody's got to do it.
Oh, it's a hard life, but somebody, as you say, has got to do it. It's a pleasure to talk with you. And I have been a big fan and sort of geeking out a bit here as well with the Entrepreneurs on Fire podcast. I love it. I think it's fantastic. And today I'm not going to ask you for a little bit of background on you because I think everyone knows yourself at this stage. And if they don't, I should question it, as they say. So, the reason I'd like to talk about a bit of podcasting, because I know we speak about it on our own individual podcasts, and we say about the benefits, but from one podcaster to another, and anyone who's sort of starting out doing a podcast or getting into it, I'd like to speak a little bit about that and get your opinion on it. So, I suppose the best place to start is what are the benefits of podcasting?
There's a lot of benefits to podcasting. One thing that really jumps out to me as somebody who listens to podcasts is that I recognize the power of the intimate connection that one has with that podcast host. I mean, I truly feel like I am friends, that I know, that I'm connected to the host that I listen to on a daily basis. I go for morning and evening walks. I listen to my string of podcasts that I just know, like, and trust and love. And I feel like I know these people. I know these hosts. And I've had people come up to me at conferences and say, John, I know this is going to sound weird, but I feel like I know you. I feel like we're friends because I listen to you every day. I know your voice, your personality, your quirks, your diction, your cadence. I know these things. And I tell them, It's not weird at all, because I feel the same way about those podcasts that I listen to. And so the level of connection is just next level for podcasts, and the ability to really have a captive audience, because usually people consume podcasts when they're commuting to work, when they're running on the beach, when they're walking in the fields of Ireland. They're consuming podcasts during a specific time when it's really where they are really able to focus on that content. And that's why podcasts have on average an 87% completion rate, because people that press play, they can press pause at some point in the future, and then they can pick it back up right where they left off, because it's that on-demand targeted content that they chose to listen to. And that's another thing that I love about podcasting is people are choosing to press play. When you jump in the car and you're listening to the radio, you don't have necessarily a choice on what's coming out of that radio. Of course, you can choose a radio station, but it's still their content that they're kicking out to you. You, as a podcast listener, get to choose what you listen to, when you listen to it, how you listen to it, and it's free and it's valuable, and that's where podcast wins.
Yeah, and I think that, as you say, it is free, but it's also it's on demand. It's when you want it, and then again, it's the other side of that is that you have the choice of what you want to listen to and what interests you. I know for myself, I have a number of podcasts that I would listen to on a weekly basis. And, and without fail, I always tune in, and it's my way of relaxing, but it's also my way of learning. And they're so filled with some fantastic content, similar to what you do as well, like with the Entrepreneurs on Fire. You can just hear it, you can understand it, and you resonate with that person. And I think that is so key to what podcasts can do for an individual, but also then as someone who is trying to get into podcasting. And it's like, I've often got asked the question, what should I do? And I always go, well, be yourself is the first thing. And I'd love to know what your thoughts are on that. If someone is going to get into and start podcasting, where should they start?
If you're going to start podcasting, I really believe you need to find a micro topic that you're passionate about, that you're excited by, and also combine that passion and excitement with something that you have skills in, you have value to add to the world. I like to call that the zone of fire, where your passions are merging with your skills, where your excitement is uniting with your expertise. That's your zone of fire. That is an area that you can really own and really dominate in the podcasting sphere. And you need to be going down and micro niching down into a topic that's not saturated, that's not full of competition. If you are looking around, you're like, wow, there's like a lot of good podcasts around this topic. It's because you haven't niched down deep enough. You've got to continue to niche down until you're like, all right, I feel like I can be the best podcast in this area right now, or very quickly with just a few, potentially a couple weeks to a couple months at most. I'm going to become the best podcast in this niche. That's where you go in. That's where you win. That's where you dominate. That's where you carve out your initial audience, get that initial momentum, and then dominate down the road.
Yeah, and I think it's very true, because you do hear a lot of stuff that's, it's hit and miss, that people don't really, they sort of go, I could listen to one and find it interesting, and then the next one is it's complete crap, and I just turn it off. And I think that's where you lose. I think that's where you lose your audience as well. And I think it's about consistency as much as anything else.
All those factors are a key role.
Yeah, and I think, like when we look at the podcast, like I know personally from when I started out, like we're 70, 72 odd in episodes in and whatever, and it's just sort of grown and it's grown, and it really does. And I don't think it's an overnight success with podcasts. And I think what you need to do is you need to work at it, but I think you also need to, to craft that out as much as anything else, as much as it's a learning experience for both sides.
Like anything in this world, you have to hone your skills. You have to put in the reps. If you look at anybody that's good at anything, whether it be sports, celebrities and actors and actresses, fitness, whatever it might be, they have put in the reps. They have put in the work. The only way you're going to hone your interview skills is by putting in the work. That's how you get better at anything you do. And it goes for podcasting. It goes for interviewing. It goes for talking. It goes for presenting. It goes for communicating. Put in the reps. Do the work.
And when it comes to, for instance, like when we talk about where do we attract the audience? How do we get promotion? How do we, get that to people where people are going to hear it? I get that question asked to me all the time. Oh, well, how, you have a podcast, but how many other people in the same boat? And I go, well, look, it's about connecting with your audience, and it's about finding that audience. And I think it's going back to where you're talking about finding your niche, in that respect of doing that.
If you're able to serve a certain number of people better than they're being served currently, they're going to gravitate towards you. And if you can get one person in that whole group to hear of your podcast and to listen and to love it, they're going to become your evangelist. And that word of mouth is going to be on fire. And before you know it, they're going to tell all their friends, all their family, everybody that's in that same peer group that likes those same things are going to hear about your show, your podcast, because you have created the best podcast on that micro topic that's out there. And that's how you're going to grow your initial fan base. Yeah,
I think it's so important that, as you say, it's word of mouth. We had Jay Barr on a couple of weeks ago talking about the talk triggers, and he was stressing that point similarly, that if you talk and if you people start to like it, it's going to spread. Because of that word of mouth is probably the best piece of marketing you can do. Apart from, we can do all our social and whatever else, and the podcasts and the websites and stuff like that. But I think word of mouth is key to this.
Absolutely.
With regards to what is your thoughts about doing the way you hear you have solo podcasts and then you have dual podcasts and then you have co-presenters and stuff like that. What is your viewpoint on that?
My viewpoint is simple. What does your perfect listener want? That's all that matters. If you know your avatar, your one perfect listener, then the answers to every question you could ever have about a podcast is answered. I know my avatar. He's Jimmy. He's 39 years old. He has a wife and 2 kids, ages 3 and 5. I could go on and on about my avatar, Jimmy. I won't do it now for time purposes, but I could. So every time I come to a fork in the road, every time I have a question about my podcast and the direction it needs to go, I just go to my avatar and say, what would my avatar want? WWJD, what would Jimmy do? And then I'm off to the races and I get it and I know. So who is your avatar? What do they want? What do they need? Do they want an interview show? Do they want a topic-based show? Do they want a Q&A show? Do they want 2 hosts? Do they want 2 guests? Like, the answer is in front of you. It's your perfect listener, and you craft that perfect listener. Then you're off to the races.
It really is. It's, I think you what you're saying here is it's so true, and it rings true so much with regards to the way we think about podcasts. And I think podcasting, it really is, it's like it's had a massive explosion again. Like, I know it's always been there, but I think over the last year or 2 years, it has really become a powerhouse, and it has had an upsurge over the last few years with regards to because I think people are consuming content differently now.
Yes.
What is your viewpoint on that? I think it's, when I look at it, I think because people are consuming content so differently now over the last, 6 to 8 months with all the different movements in social media and stuff like that, that people are now turning to podcasts because they find it, as you say earlier on, it's on demand, it's when I want it, and it's how I want it. What is your viewpoint on that?
Absolutely. Podcasting just continues to become more mainstream. You're starting to hear it in movies, sitcoms, news shows. I mean, newscasters have their own podcasts. I mean, everybody has recognized the opportunity that podcasts have because they have a certain place in a lot of people's lives. They're never going to be the thing that people come home and you sit around the fireplace and you listen to a podcast, with your significant other. Like, that's not going to happen. But podcasts will play a certain role at a certain time in people's lives, when they go to the gym, when they're running on the beach, when they're walking their dog, when they're driving their car, solo by themselves. Like, podcasting will have that special place for people that have carved out that time to consume that type of content that they want. And so that's why podcasting has really caught fire, so to speak, is because it's not trying to be everything. It's just trying to be that one answer to that certain time frame in your day, every day, that it makes sense for you to listen to a podcast because you can't be watching a video or you can't be doing this or doing that, but you can be listening while you're multitasking and doing other things like driving and folding laundry and going for a run. So that's why podcasting's really kind of continues to build the steam. And I just don't see it going away because you can't out audio. It's just audio. That's what it is. But it's never going to become the end all be all. It is what it is. And people have accepted that, I think, and are using it for that reason and in that manner.
And I think, like you touched on the point there where you can listen to it in your car. And of course, now we're looking at like most of the new cars in the last 3 to 4 years have got the facility that you can actually listen to podcasts on your dashboard from your car stereo or whatever it may be. And I think this is, it's only strengthening this again.
It's only strengthened it. It's just becoming easier to consume. It's just becoming more accessible and less techy. And you can just press the play button and you're off to the races. So podcasting for all those reasons has become very powerful.
So your 3 top tips for someone who is starting out doing a podcast, what would they be?
Number 1, what's your micro niche? Like, what is the area that you're going to actually dominate? And then within that, number 2, what is your topic going to be? That's going to be the biggest solution to the biggest problem in that micro niche. And then number 3, who's your avatar? Who's your perfect listener? The perfect listener for your show. If you have those 3 things down, you can launch a podcast and you'll start seeing listeners grow overnight.
Brilliant stuff. And before you go, John, I always ask my guests one simple question before we finish up, and it's nothing to do with the podcast. It is if you had the chance to invite someone to dinner, whether it be past or present, who would it be and why?
It would be Alexander the Great. I'm always pretty fascinated with what he did, and I think it would just be interesting to have him at a dinner conversation and kind of pick his brain about what drove him, what inspired him, why he did what he did, and go from there.
Brilliant stuff. That's great. And how can people reach out to you if they want to get in contact with you?
Sure. All the magic for me happens at eofire.com. We have links to our podcast, Entrepreneurs on Fire. My name's John Lee Dumas. So you can just Google that as well and check that out. And if anybody is listening and saying, hey, podcasting sounds pretty cool, I have a completely free course at freepodcastcourse.com, freepodcastcourse.com. You can check out a free course on how to create and launch your very own podcast.
Brilliant stuff. John, it has been an absolute pleasure to chat with you here today on the podcast, and we wish you continued success and, as you say, keep that fire brewing.
Thanks, brother. I appreciate it.
Talk to you soon. Thanks a lot. So my thanks to John for coming on the podcast today and sharing with us some fantastic tips and tricks and insights into podcasting. And don't forget, if you do want to find out more about John, you can log on to his website at eofire.com, and you can also check out his podcasting course as well, which is available on his website, and full details can be found there. You can also follow him across all the social media platforms and also check out his podcast, Entrepreneurs on Fire. So once again, as I said, my thanks to John for coming on and sharing with us some fantastic insights. And if you'd like to listen to any of our previous podcasts, you can log on to our website at compassmedia.ie/podcasts. And all of our podcasts are available on Mixcloud, Stitcher Radio, Google Play, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts as well. And we would be delighted if you would leave us a rating and review on Apple Podcasts, as we are always thrilled to receive your feedback on any of the programs. You can also subscribe to the Social Media Talks podcast there, so you never miss an episode either. And if you'd like the show notes for this episode or for any of the previous podcasts, log on to our website at compassmedia.ie/SM Talks. And if you'd like to be a guest on the podcast, please do get in contact with us. All you have to do is email us at smtalks@compassmedia.ie. If you'd like to find out more about the services that Compass Media provide, from social media marketing, training and podcast services, please visit our website and find out all the details there. You can also reach out and connect with me across all of the social media platforms by just searching for the name Alan Hennessy or for Compass Media. That's about our lot for today. So until next week at the same time, have a great week. And as I always say, be social. So until next week at the same time, bye-bye.
Social Media Talks podcast is a production from compassmedia.ie.